The Dancing Witch is back with her third installment. After an exciting conclusion to Bayonetta's origin story, Bayonetta 3 switches the focus on a new witch, Viola. I went into this game hoping that it would blow Bayonetta 1 and 2 out of the water, especially after the initial drama surrounding it proved not to be so truthful. I had high hopes. I wanted Bayonetta 3 to shake the charts. I had a lot of spite in me. But after playing it, Bayonetta 2 supremacy. It begins with Bayonetta getting her ass handed to her. She loses the fight and Viola makes a retreat. Fast forward to New York, and after some self-promo, we see Enzo driving Bayonetta around. However, something wicked this way comes, and she has to meet someone. While Bayo is dressing for her meeting, a girl falls from the sky who seeks Bayonetta. Strange creatures known as Homunculi, man-made bioweapons, begin their attack, and Bayonetta clears them out with the help of her giant demon friends. The Skyfallen girl, Viola, seeks Bayonetta and Jeanne's help to stop an entity known as Singularity. The ladies must collect Chaos Gears to open the portal to the multiverse, while also seeking out a scientist known as Dr. Sigurd to stop the homunculi from destroying each reality. In order to gain access to the multiverse, Bayonetta and Viola travel to the isolated island, Thule, the land that connects the multiverse and Singularity's world, the Alphaverse. This opens Bayonetta up to a world of possibilities, including meeting various versions of herself. It's a very straightforward plot, and Bayonetta doesn't take too long boring the player with exposition, and instantly brings together the characters you love. It pains me to say, Bayonetta 3 from a story standpoint is my least favorite. Bayo 1 and 2 had better premises and tied things together so beautifully. I was hoping that Bayonetta 3 could be the bow on top, but alas, I was feeling rather hollow and with little motivation to continue. It was more, I have to play this for a review, than man, I can't wait to see what the next chapter entails. And this review, I'm not going to go too deep into it, but the build up for the ending, whew, terrible. They needed a few more chapters to flesh out whatever the fuck that was. I think Bayonetta 3 was a bit too ambitious. Bayonetta has always been over the top, and including the idea of a Bayonetta multiverse seems like the next appropriate step. But something as complex as a multiverse can easily make for a confusing story. And toward the end it did. And the sad thing is, they didn't even take advantage of the full scope of the multiverse. Meeting multiple Bayonettas, it was very formulaic. The alternate Bayos were just dressed up bodies who needed saving rather than developed variations of our star witch. Coupling that with characters that are destined to play larger roles in the future and only giving us crumbs, Bayonetta 3 did the unusual feat of spreading itself too thin and simultaneously not going far enough with its ideas. It didn't properly flesh out the events that lead to Bayonetta's unsatisfying ending. It took me looking up theories and explanations for me to have a better understanding of to why Bayonetta 3 ended the way it did. Surprisingly, Bayonetta 3 hides a lot of interesting story points and character interests in its archives. It's a shame Bayonetta 3 did a lot of telling and less showing. But since the Game Awards showing, they are expanding on some of the more glossed over points by going backwards. Bayonetta Origins, a game about Cereza exploring the Avalon Forest to save her mother. If you found some secrets in Bayonetta 3, you'd see that they were leading into a new mythology. Still, I know Bayonetta isn't known for its story or characters, but it didn't mean the previous entries didn't have any good ones, damn it. Rodon, Enzo, Jeanne, Luca, they're all there, and the newest member, Viola. Now, Viola isn't my favorite. She's a clumsy punk rockin' witch who's clearly trying to come into her own. She has her own demon companion, Cheshire, who does what he wants, but also cares for his witchy friend. Funny enough, I liked everyone except Viola, and I can't say I hated her, just not really in love with her either. She has a role, she plays her role, that's kind of it for me. But Bayonetta, without a doubt, is a constant shining star. If you're not much of a story person, no problem, it's not like Bayonetta's known for that anyways. Platinum Games is back with fast-paced and challenging combat. Bayonetta has traditionally been a hack and slash, stringing together combos while timing your dodge perfectly to slow down time and go all out on enemies. Some tweaks to this are which time lasts as good as your dodge, so some dodges last a mere second while others can last for a few. And if you combo quickly, you'll be able to hold witch time, allowing you to combo harder hitting attacks. Landing combos will allow for torture attacks, strong moves that are usually a finisher, but that's not the biggest appeal of Bayonetta 3, is it? In previous entries, we've seen Bayonetta use her demons to help her fight, but in 3, we get to control the demons. Demon Slave allows us to fight as the demons, performing a string of combos for as long as Bayo has magic. But This renders her unplayable, dancing to keep her minions summoned, and can easily be targeted for incoming attacks. This was so much fun. It felt like a hit of dopamine finally being able to control these beasts, and you're allowed to do so liberally as the magic meter refills faster by performing witch time. It feels amazing swapping from Bayonetta to Demon, weaving together smooth combos and dishing heavy damage. And usually toward the end, Bayonetta has to pull out all the stops, offering her heart to summon a demon at full power. Some of these were great, fighting large beasts toe to toe, while others forgot what made Bayonetta great. The fast-paced action, which turned into waiting for an enemy to attack and then counter. While others were somewhere in between. They lacked that high-octane battle, but made for a fun spectacle. And that's not all either. There's Demon Masquerading, which allows you to move as a demon, depending on what weapon you have equipped. This allows for different and faster means of traversal. Bayonetta will get a boatload of these things, meaning the player gets to try out a variety of attacks to see which fits their playstyle. Some weapons are quick, while others are slow but harder hitting. And the greatest part is you can have two weapons equipped at once and easily switch between the two while in action. You never have to pause. And that's how Bayonetta plays. But being Bayonetta 3, and being 3 leads this time around, naturally they all have to have a different playstyle. Viola is pretty similar. The two main differences are her witch time is activated by perfect blocking, and in order to summon Cheshire, her demon, she throws her sword and the demon moves independently while Viola can still attack with her fists, while Bayonetta has to remain in place. Honestly, her style ain't even bad, it's just jarring coming from a Bayonetta level. It took a moment to switch gears, recalling what buttons blocked or dashed. Viola was a lot more limited as she doesn't have multiple weapons or a demon masquerade ability, and wasn't nearly as fun to play as Bayonetta. But I do appreciate the feel of her being an inexperienced witch. Then there's Jeanne. I hate everything about her section. It's a stealth game and a fast action game. Ugh, the setup is a side-scroller and you're trying to get through this level while being stealthy, kill homunculi from vents, or sneakily from behind, which activates her witch time. Listen, a stealth section in an action game was doomed to fail. It wasn't a fun pace breaker for me. I'd rather it not be there at all. Like, who wants to spend time waiting for enemies to turn around to witch time them in an action game? Not me. I want to get in their faces and kick them into next week. The most I could give this were the bosses could be kind of fun, but the actual level itself, no thank you. Skills are naturally back, a tree for Bayonetta and Viola, the weapon, and the demon the weapon corresponds with. I highly recommend unlocking at least the first skills of each weapon to give it a proper and fair test run before deeming it unfit. I found them really fun to try. Now, just like Bayonetta's predecessors, there are portals scattered throughout that issue challenges, like floor damage, don't get hit, survive, etc. These were tough, and I did most of the beginning ones, but toward the end I stopped caring. These are important due to they train the player to get good, so to speak. Plus, clearing them your first time nets you moon pearls, which increases your magic meter, and witch hearts, which increases health. Now, as cool, flashy, and satisfying the combat may be, I was getting my ass beat, as is tradition for any Bayonetta game I play. At the end of each verse, you're ranked based on combos, time, and damage taken. Frankly, I was pretty cozy at placing silver, and anytime I got gold, it was something to be celebrated. In addition, there are bewitchments you can receive during verses, little achievements for doing something special. Something my amateur ass was so happy they changed are items no longer take away from your score, so pop those lollipops as much as you want. They're gained by treasure, alchemizing, or you can buy them at Rodon's bar. Find a record player and you'll be instantly transported. Here you can buy items, equipment, and new clothing options. You'll actually find a decent amount of things to do while going through the levels. Mentioned before, treasure, which is easier said than done. Some chests unlock a platforming challenge, which is a pain, hated it. Again, I did the earlier ones, but as they just became harder, they took too long and they were ruining the pace for me. Other times they open easily enough or become a treasure monster, which is still more fun than platforming. Anytime combos in the mix, it's a good time. Speaking of time, there are time homunculi that turn Bayonetta into Cereza and steals her magic powers. Tip it over and use it to reverse the flow of time, freezing it for a moment to reveal a hidden pathway before time is up. There are Bayonetta collectibles hidden throughout, along with spider couriers that give gifts. And the newest addition that I hate are collecting the bloody tears held by a cat, frog, and crow. You'll spy these guys throughout the level, and you must catch them in order to gain the Umbran Tears of Blood. Getting all the tears opens a path to a counterpart of that area, the Phenomenal Remnant. I don't know why this time around all the side missions are beginning to piss me off. I know that side challenges have always been a thing, challenge portals, chests that require platforming, and now catch 3 animals 3 times. The frogs ain't too bad, but the cats and birds, ugh, I feel like I'm spending more time chasing pussy than I am kicking ass and taking names. And I think that's one of my biggest pet peeves with Bayonetta 3. It's true, while all these side challenges are optional, I just wanted to fight. I just wanted to do my little turn on the catwalk while kicking Homunculi in the face. Because these challenges were tough, I felt like I spent 20 to 30 minutes, depending on the challenge, before actually going through the level. Which got me to the point of, fuck it, I don't care, I'm just gonna go straight through the level. I do have a high opinion on the combat overall, but where it really dropped the ball is the graphics. Bayonetta has outgrown the Switch, and it shows. For a brand new shiny game, right out the gate, it came out looking a little dated. They pushed the hardware to its limits, and it just looked okay to bad for me. This game was made in 2022 with Platinum Games at the helm, and the textures looked pretty rough. But unlike some, I didn't have any major frame rate drops. I had a mostly pleasant playthrough. Granted, most of my time was in handheld, working with an overheating Switch and all. And you know what gets me? How much darker it is, like the color palette. I remember 2 being so beautiful and bright, and I think it was a little more cartoony, which plays to my personal preference. It's kind of sad that it all felt very limited, because their ideas on paper were great. I love the worlds, the large battlefields, the debris everywhere, Bayonetta's new fit, and only Bayonetta's new fit. Let's talk about these character designs real quick. Viola does nothing for me. She looks like punk rock just vomited on her, and that was her design. It felt like minimal thought and care went into her look. And Jeanne, my girl, progressively looks worse each iteration. Bayo 1, Jeanne was hot, sexy, red was her color. Those lips, long lashes, hair gelled down, not a strand out of place. Then Bayo 2, she grew it out and her hair just wasn't the same. And her fit was a downgrade, a generic tight-fitting catsuit. Then Bayonetta 3. I honestly don't even know what happened. What are these clashing patterns? And I still don't like her long hair. The camera was okay. I found in some areas it pulled back a lot to show the action of Bayonetta's beasties, and it was kind of hard to see Bayonetta. A lot of areas were open, leaving a lot of space. Now, a new feature that makes me chuckle, naive angel mode, which is for those with delicate sensibilities, reducing depictions of violence, gore, and exposure. While I certainly didn't use it, I found certain censorships comical, like replacing Bayonetta's heart with a tomato. So the audio and voice acting, well, we already know about the messy voice acting drama. Jennifer Hale voices Bayonetta instead of Hellena Taylor, and I say she did a good job. You get used to it. I think when everyone first heard her voice, it was a bit jarring, but as you spend more time with her, the switch up doesn't stand out as much. Look, separating the art from the artist for a moment, Hellena has a deeper, sassier voice, where Jennifer Hale has a stronger element of seduction. I don't have a super strong opinion on it either way. As for the music, same energy. I don't have a strong opinion. It didn't stand out to me unless it was a standard combat track, which, surprise, is my favorite. I tend to like the sexy, smooth, and upbeat music of Bayonetta. I really enjoy this genre because Bayonetta's fighting style feels like a dance, and it's totally a song I would jive to. I didn't really care for the other battle theme, Viola's. I like rock music, but it didn't feel very Bayonetta. Which is the point, right? Viola is very different. Bayonetta 3 soundtrack doesn't do anything bad. There's music for different locations, various versions of boss themes, but none that perked up my ears. So, enjoy Bayonetta's battle theme, Moonlight Serenade. Bayonetta 3 is fun to play, and that's about it for me. I know I'm in the minority here. We play Bayonetta for gameplay, the combos, demon summoning, but as a character-driven story lover, and someone who enjoyed Bayonetta 1 and 2, combat and story, this wasn't phenomenal for me. I wish Bayo 3 focused less on exploration, all these little side things, and more combat. And I think there are a lot of question marks as how we got to this ending. I don't think the ending is necessarily bad, however, how we got there, absolutely atrocious. Thus, making the conclusion feel so left field. Not to mention the lack of boundary pushing for a theme as grand as the multiverse, while also having one of the most boring, uninteresting, and stale villains I've ever had the displeasure of meeting. Here's my takeaway. If you truly don't give a flying fuck about story and you just want hype as fuck combat, yo, play Bayonetta 3. It's got you covered. But if you want the best of both worlds, play Bayonetta 2. And Bayo 1 is if you really want a challenge. And lucky you, I happen to review both of those games. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to support me on Patreon where you get access to the Discord, early videos, and postcards. Love your faces, and I'll see you in the next video. Mwah!